Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to one of our final sessions of the day. It's fantastic to see so many people here, and thank you to those of you joining us virtually as well. So we're going to be discussing today venue sourcing in the changing landscape, adapting to budgets and market trends. And today we're going to be unpacking some key insights for both event professionals and hospitality professionals from our latest planner sourcing survey that we conducted just a little earlier in the year. Now, I did just want to get a quick idea of who we have in the room with us. So if you're an event planner, if you wouldn't mind just raising your hand. Oh, thank you. And if you are a hotelier or event venue. Okay, so almost 50-50, which is great. So for event planners, today we're going to be sharing actionable insights and best practices to help you adapt to those changing budgets and event demands. And for hoteliers, well, we have two event planners that you can hear from directly in the room. And hopefully the information that you will hear will help you stay competitive in the current market and help you win that all-important MICE business. So do feel free to take any photographs that you'd like to throughout the session. We'll also be displaying a QR code at the end, which has a link to the Planner Sourcing Report, which this whole session is based on as well. And it's also on our website as well. So my name is Nicola Allen, and I'm responsible for the marketing here at Cvent on our hospitality side of the business for our European region. And I am so excited to have four absolutely amazing panelists joining me today. So I'm going to go down the line and ask you to introduce yourselves. So first up for you, Darren.
Thank you, Nicola. Hi, everyone. It's great to be here today. I'm Darren Toulouche. I work at Vertex Pharmaceuticals in the Global Meetings and Events Department. I'm the internal global account lead for our preferred logistics agencies, reviewing processes, service level agreements, landscape resourcing, all that fun stuff, and really being the internal connection to our external partners.
And my name's Antonia Jules. I work at Parexel International. We're a clinical research organisation, running clinical trials, but also running investigator meetings and clinical meetings, and any type of meeting, really, a pharmaceutical meeting for pharmaceutical biotech clients.
Hi, everyone. My name is Maria, and I'm the Cluster Director of Sales and Marketing for Hyatt Regency at Churchill and Andaz London, Liverpool Street.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Iman, and I'm the Assistant Director of Sales at the Andaz London, Liverpool Street, and I look after MICE, proactive and reactive.
Thank you all. And so before we dive into the findings, I just wanted to provide a little bit of context about who we surveyed. So we worked with an external agency called Censuswide, who surveyed over 600 planners from across the European region on a range of topics, including their thoughts, opinions, challenges, all around the sourcing process. Now, the event planners were placed in key markets across Europe and from a range of different industries, so everything from healthcare to technology, finance, and a variety of others. So let's kick off our key findings, and the first one is a particularly exciting one. It's all around costs and budgets. So 61% of planners indicated to us this year that their budgets are expected to increase in 2025. And additionally, 67% expect their cost to increase. Now, last year, when we asked this question, 85% of planners said that their budgets were due to increase in 2024. So that's telling us that next year, yes, budgets are going to increase, but perhaps just not as aggressively as that we've seen for this year. What's interesting as well is that we also asked event planners, how many events are you expecting to run next year? And 78% are expecting to run 10 or more events. Now, when we asked that same question last year, that number was 34%. So what does this all mean? I realize I've just thrown a lot of numbers out there. Essentially, I guess to summarize, is that for next year, we're expecting costs to go up, but not quite as much as we've seen this year. And then budgets as well, but then additionally, the amount of events that everyone is running is going up even more than that. So event planners, you're in for a treat next year, it seems. So knowing all this, however, it's quite unsurprising then that staying within budget in 2025 is the single largest worry for planners, with 36% stating it as their biggest concern. And that's followed by time management, which we'll go back onto a little later, and of course the overall costs of meetings and events sitting there at 29%. But despite all of these concerns about costs and budgets and staying under budget, it's quite interesting, I think, to note that still 94% of planners are willing to pay more for a preferred hotel or event venue. And in this instance, we actually mean an event venue that suits their space the best or even perfectly, not necessarily a preferred hotel program. So these results are really indicating to us that planners are placing more emphasis on those trusted partnerships, a quality service, but also a space that suits their needs the best, even in this tight financial climate. So moving on, and I would love to open this up to our panel of experts. And Darren, I'm going to come to you first, if that's okay. On the first slide, we saw that 61% of planners are expecting their budgets to increase. Are you also expecting yours to increase for next year?
We are, but we work in the pharmaceutical industry, so we have to deal with a lot of policy limits for our healthcare professionals. So on that side, we have to stick to those limits. So budget can kind of be a little bit irrelevant because the limits are the limits. For our internal meetings, meaning employees, we're seeing budgets go up, but it's really on a scale. So we're a fast-growing company, attendees, our employees are increasing rapidly all the time. Therefore, the budgets are going up to match that. The budgets are going up, but every penny is being watched ultimately.
And when it comes then to preferred hotels, are you also willing to pay more for an event space that suits your event perfectly?
Yes. So what we look for most when we are inviting an internal audience to one of our events is a city centre location. We want it to be as efficient as possible to get to the venue. Time is very sparse for everyone, and city centre often means more expensive. So from that perspective, if it ticks all the boxes, there could be an increase in budget, yeah.
And then coming on to you then, Antonia, what sort of feedback are you hearing from your customers when it comes to budgets and costs for next year?
So we're finding that there's a really intense focus on budget. Budgets are being scrutinised to the nth degree, and we're actually finding that they're remaining reasonably static. They are going up, but only to accommodate the rising costs, really. So what we're finding is that people are tending to change the way that they're delivering meetings. So unlike probably some of you in the room, we're not seeing that massive increase in in-person meetings. They are there, and we have got a majority of in-person meetings, but a lot of the clinical meetings specifically are being delivered virtually, probably about a 60% in-person, 40% virtual. We're also finding that the carbon footprint situation is meaning that people are sending less people to meetings, which therefore means there's less costs involved. However, we are also finding that we're having to design better meetings. So we are thinking more about the agendas that are being pulled together. We are creating agendas which still require one night's accommodation, but they're building content around dinners so that we don't have to keep people for 2 nights accommodation, which is obviously saving costs as well.
Sure. And then, Aman, for you then, so we saw earlier that 36% of event planners are, quite concerned about staying within budget. How are you balancing, doing that with your customers, but also driving that business for your venue?
I think from a hotel side, to be honest, it's more about having that open conversation to have with the planner. Be honest about it. Be honest about what you can do and what you cannot do with the budget you've been given. I think half of the audience are hoteliers, sorry, and we can all agree that it's not an information we have from the beginning. Sometimes we dig even further to get that information. So again, it's about asking the right question and having that conversation. I would also like to add that maybe, when you are sending out proposals, break it down, list your inclusions, and highlight the concessions and what you could do in order to get that saving also. I think from my side, would you like?
I mean, I think you need to be open and have an open conversation with the event planner. I think you should be able to offer alternative dates when you're not able to fulfill the budget within the specific dates. The planner is asking and offer, like Iman said, offer the added value, show the full value of your proposal for the dates you cannot meet the budget, and also offer the alternative dates for the dates you can meet the budget. And that sometimes the dates are flexible and the planner will be willing to go with your need dates that fulfill their budget.
Brilliant, thank you all for that. Now let's move on to our next insight. And from the survey results, 83% want responses to their RFPs in 4 days or less. And in fact, for smaller meetings, under 50 people, a third of planners told us that they expect a response in 2 days or less. So the smaller the event, the quicker they want the response. And I was actually curious, please nod your head if you would agree with that. Do you think, the smaller the event, you would expect that quicker? I can see a few.
You're nodding,
yeah,
sure.
Thank you. So additionally, on top of that then, 22% of planners told us that response time really is a key area where they feel like hotels can improve the most, which you'll see just on the following chart here. But I also wanted to look at some other important aspects of the sourcing process, though. Yes, we know that response time is absolutely critical, but what about the quality and the thoroughness of the proposal itself? And so, as you can see from the graphs, 20% of planners think that hotels and venues could do a better job when it comes to customised and thorough proposals. So we know, therefore, that those detailed and comprehensive proposals can absolutely hugely influence a planner's decision. And what we found, actually, is that, in fact, after cost and the venue location, thoroughness of an RFP is the next most important thing for planners that will influence a decision for them to book with the hotel, according to our most recent results. So I'd love to go back to the panel now at this point. And Antonio, question for you. Why is, therefore, getting these fast responses so critical for your business and your clients?
So it's $1 million question, isn't it?
It is.
Basically, timelines are being squeezed from both ends. We are getting less notice about events. We find that the stakeholders we're working with have got used to running virtual meetings, which can be pulled together quite quickly. And so they're giving us less time. And then at the other end, we have to be aware of the fact that delegates are really busy. Attendees to meetings are really busy. We need to get information into their calendars really earlier on to make sure that they can attend. So it's really important. We don't want to send out a save the date to somebody who we don't know where the meeting is taking place. It may change date because we can't find space. So it's just getting squeezed and squeezed. And actually, the point that you made in the intro about the thoroughness of proposals, we're expecting so much more from hotels. So not only are we giving them less time, but we're expecting more from them. We need to make sure that proposals are appropriate to the event that we're running. They need to be transparent. So if we've got pillars in a room or it's a low ceiling, we need to know about it. We need to make sure that the space is going to work for us. And actually, in my particular account, the stakeholders that I'm working with are not event professionals. They're clinicians. They don't really understand how to run an event. So it's really important that I can fully understand and know that the hotels that I'm working with can deliver that event and can follow the needs of the meeting. And I need to then be able to convey that to the stakeholder that we're working with. I think really actually getting even a tentative yes or no from a hotel and then picking up the phone and having a discussion with them is good. And really it's more about, it's really important to rule a hotel out just as much as it is to rule them in. Because really, if they don't respond, we will not follow up with them eventually. We'll only follow them so many times. Then we'll just assume that they're not interested in that business. So we will just decline them at that point.
And then Maria, for you then, how are you balancing, this managing the demand, but also ensuring that your team can deliver those comprehensive proposals quickly enough?
So I think here deployment is key. If you can have specialists in markets and allocate the right inquiries to the right salesperson, would be of great help. Also, have team members flexible enough to be able to quote to anything in case those specialists are not in the office. Response time, evaluate the response time with your team, make sure they are going back to the clients on time. Also, without losing the connection with the client, have some templates, have some automation that your sales team can pick up from and then tailor to the specific client and the specific event in hand to make sure the proposal goes out in time, but it's personalized to the specific request.
And Darren, for you then, so as an end client working with an agency and taking into account all the findings that we've just discussed around the RFP quality and the thoroughness, what information is it really that you're looking for in order to make a decision around what event venues you're going to pick?
We're looking for a lot of information. So echoing everything that Antonia said, but we do like a lot of information so that we can review everything holistically as it comes in to be prepared to make a recommendation to the business owner or decision maker. We find that really getting all of that info up front has been really helpful, and there's specific things that we need to add on to that. Is there another farmer in-house? Is everything split level, on the same level? All of these things that might be a second conversation we like to have up front so that we have all of our ducks in a row when we're making that decision. Yeah.
Absolutely. I particularly like the comment there that you made as well, Antonia, about, you need to either rule a venue in or out. You need to know one way or another. So that's really interesting to know. Thank you. Okay, so let's move on to our next finding. So we've already discussed a little bit around budgets, costs, response times, and the thoroughness of proposals. But what about some of the other challenges that event planners are facing? And I wanted to bring this slide back up because I think it's really important to note that time management and resource limitations really are huge concerns for event planners in 2025, especially as we know that they're already running more and more events, as we discussed a little bit earlier. And so it's really clear to see, I think, from here that there's a strong need for effective solutions that can help planners streamline their processes, but also enhance their efficiency. And this is, of course, really where technology comes into play. Now, in the survey, 30% of the respondents told us that they are spending more time using technology than ever before to source hotels and event venues. And so to go a little deeper then on that, of those planners that indicated that they're using technology more, 42% of them are using technology to review aspects such as event diagrams and specifications. But also look at those other bars in the chart. Technology really is being used across every different aspect and every stage of the sourcing process. So what is the key takeaway here? Planners are running more events than ever before. They have less time, as we already know, and they're using technology to streamline their processes to really combat that. So my advice would be here, if you are a hotel or event venue in the room, it's never been more important to make sure that you're also utilizing technology to make sure that you're showcasing your event space to the best of its possible ability. And in fact, 40% of planners indicated to us that access to things such as event diagrams, photographs, videos, all influence their decision to book with a particular venue the most. So not just partially influence them, these were the most important things that they looked at that influenced their decision. So to bring it back to our amazing panel here, I'm going to go back to you, Antonia. I'd love to hear, how you are leveraging technology to make the sourcing process a little bit better.
Yeah, so we rolled out Cvent Supplier Network about 11 years ago, and we do run all of our events through the Cvent Supplier Network. And for the hoteliers in the room, please don't think that we don't want to establish a relationship with you. It's really important for us that we have the efficiency of running everything through Cvent, but our sourcing teams are more than happy to pick up the phone and have a conversation with you about the proposal. If there's any concern that you can't fit it in or there's any flexibility, we will speak to you and we will work with you to put that into Cvent so that it can be done. We have to really concentrate on our meetings being a good attendee experience and engaging, which means for us it's really important that we understand the proposal you're putting together, the flow of the meeting in your venue. We have to understand the space. We have to know that the food and beverage space will work for what we need. We often put in product information into a coffee break area, so therefore it can't be a public area. So we need to have that conversation with you so that you understand that, so that our meetings run effectively. As I said earlier on, our stakeholders aren't always meeting events professionals, so we have to consider that and know fully that what we are recommending is the right venue for our meeting. Really then, how do we kind of get that information? Well, we really use the Cvent venue pages. We would go there as a first point of call. We would look at the capacity charts, the floor diagrams you may have in there. We don't really do site inspections very much now unless we're doing a very complicated event. So we're really reliant on the information that you put in those Cvent pages. We also work with hotels and look at their virtual site inspections. So we may run through a 360 kind of a tour of the hotel, which is really useful. And there's obviously information that Cvent is putting together, photographic floor plans, etc., which are really, really helpful to us to make sure that we can deliver that meeting in that venue. So they all help us save time and make us more efficient, which means that we can run more meetings, which is great.
Brilliant. And then, Aman, coming to you then, in what ways do you believe technology really can sort of help improve the sourcing process, both for your customers, but also for yourselves?
I think when it comes to technology, it does really help free up that time from all the admin part of it so you can focus on building those relationships. What you've mentioned, Antonia, is very important from a hotel side also, because when you talk about technology, for us, it's more about having all the information on your profile. So have your need dates, for example, update on the hotel profile, all the information, photography, videography, the virtual tour, any information the planner would need will be able to find in that hotel profile. There are also, again, great tools. Additional to that, it could be, for example, the planner navigator that you guys have, which really help to attract more business and more planners. The rooming list also could be a great tool that could be used for hotels, and again, just to free up the time and focus on that relationship.
Okay, so let's take a look then at our last trend. And last year, nearly half, around 48%, of European event planners expressed an interest in exploring new types of venues. And for this year, we're really seeing that trend continue, with 45% still actively sourcing special event venues. And by special event venues in this instance, we mean essentially any hotel, any sort of non-hotel event venue. Now, what types of venues are they sourcing exactly? Well, the top types of venues that are popular at the moment include convention centres and restaurants, both at 36%, and that's then followed by theatres, art galleries and museums as well. So this is really showing us then that planners are looking at a diverse range of options, especially when we've been talking about budget changes, but also really wanting to enhance that experience as well for their customers. What's interesting as well is that we're seeing this same trend as well on our Cvent supplier network that Antonia and a few of us have been talking about here. So we've seen a 25% year-over-year increase in terms of RFP value sourced to special event venues for the same time last year. So quite a big increase there. So I'm going to take it back to the panel once more here, and so we can discuss sort of around these special event venues and the trends that we're seeing. Antonia, what types of venues typically are you hosting and using? And have you seen any different sort of changes recently in terms of what type of venues you're going for?
So I'm going to buck the trend here, I'm afraid. And I think really we are not seeing a big rise in special event venues, but I think that's very typical of the biopharmaceutical industry. We have to abide by compliance regulations. We are not allowed to go to anywhere too lavish, obviously, and spend limits are really a priority for us. So when we are running events with healthcare professionals, we typically will be holding them in a 4-star property, a hotel, rather than a special event venue, partly because hotels have spent a lot of effort recently in understanding our needs and our requirements and are able to deliver what we need them to deliver. We obviously work with pharmaceutical companies who need to run internal events, and whilst it'd be lovely to go, oh, it's an internal event, let's go to a nice, lavish 5-star hotel, that's also not really acceptable. Most pharmaceutical companies will try to stick with compliance guidelines regardless of whether it's internal or external. They might be slightly more flexible, but it's definitely it's all about a perception thing, really. There is one area where we are seeing the use of special event venues, and that is in a regional capacity. So we do a lot of clinical meetings in Japan, for example. Those meetings typically are held on a Saturday, and we are competing quite heavily with the wedding business in Japan. We can't afford to compete with the wedding business in Japan, and so therefore they always win, and we end up having to go somewhere else. So we will potentially sometimes go out to 30-odd hotels in Japan. So we have started strategically targeting special event venues like congress centres, so nothing too lavish, but congress centres, and then accommodate the delegates in a nearby hotel. And that seems to be paying dividends at the moment, so fingers crossed.
Sure. And then Maria, for you then, are you also experiencing that sort of increased competition from special event venues? And if so, how are you sort of adapting your sales strategy to compensate for that?
Great question, and thank you, Antonia, for fulfilling a hotelier's dream. Yes, there are beautiful, unique event spaces, but I don't think we compete. I think we need to be partners, and we need to look at each other as an opportunity, because different markets will source different venues, and there will always be business for hotels, and there will always be business for special event venues. And if you look at partnering, everyone wins, because, for example, when it comes to bedrooms, special event venues don't have bedrooms, so if a hotel partners with a special event venue, I mean, it's a great partnership, and it's a win-win story for both the hotel and the special event venue.
And as a client, just to jump in there, we really appreciate that, Maria. I think putting yourself in the shoes of the customer and understanding what they want and how you can work together, making those recommendations on your knowledge of the area, what's close by, is really helpful. Sometimes in growing companies, you don't have the choice of going to a hotel because there's limited large hotels in that city, for example. So it's really great when we hear hotels wanting to partner, not just for accommodation, but learning about different other opportunities, whether it's dinners or arrival receptions and things like that. So that's really good to hear.
So sadly, that is all we have time for today. But if you would like to find out any additional insights, please do download our Planner Sourcing Report. As I mentioned, it contains a lot more information about what we've been discussing today. It's literally just been released this week as well, potentially even today. So please do download that, or you can access it on our website. Or please do come and speak to a member of staff up at the Innovation Pavilion as well. So I think we might have time for one question, if anybody in the audience would like to ask anything of our panelists. No? Everyone's ready for a quick drink. Well, I have one question for both of you, I'm afraid. Oh, you do? Oh, sorry, missed you. We're just going to bring a mic.
You were talking about cost earlier and about different dates and things. So as an event planner, if we chose different days of the week, would that make a difference on cost of meeting rooms and bedrooms and things like that? And what days are the best or the cheapest, just that would help? Thanks.
I think it would depend. I think it would depend on the type of the event, the type of the hotel we're working at, and the location of the hotel. So, for example, I manage 2 completely different properties, one in Marble Arch, one in the city, and my need dates and my peak nights are completely different in each hotel. So it would definitely vary where you're sourcing the hotel. But yes, they do. School holidays tend to be more affordable than full business weeks, for example, summer holidays as well. So it. For example, in the city, if you're sourcing a meeting on a Tuesday and a Wednesday, it's our peak night. So you're going to get higher rates than if you want a meeting on a Thursday and a Friday.
I would definitely agree with that. So we typically do a lot of our clinical meetings on a Friday because of the availability of doctors, that they can get out of clinics, etc. And so we do a lot of our clinical meetings on a Friday with a Thursday night stay over, and it always pays dividends.
Always
hotels,
helps.
yeah.
And it also depends on the hotel strategy, as Maria said. And from a planner side, for example, when you send out the RFP on a hotel, if you say that you are flexible with the date, the hotel would probably check what would be the best date that would work for them and for you. So again, it's just about having that conversation and the communication about what would work best for both parties.
Fantastic, thank you. Well, I'm sure our panelists, I'm saying that you can, but hopefully you won't mind answering a few questions afterwards to the side. But if you wouldn't mind as well, if everyone has a few moments just to take our survey as well, we really do appreciate the feedback, and it helps us sort of drive the conversation for next year as well. So thank you once again, everybody, for joining us, and thank you to our amazing panelists. It's been so fantastic hearing all your opinions and thoughts on the sourcing process. I know it's a really tricky one to combat, but I think it's really good to have these conversations. We do have one more session taking place this afternoon. It's going to be back in this room at 4 p.m. And it's all around how to be a good speaker. So please do come back for that. I know I'll definitely be there. And then afterwards we have we have our after party as well. So plenty of drinks to flow around there. So please do join us. Thank you once again, everyone.
Thank you.
Isn't just business. It's an invitation to elevate your experience. From iconic luxury to smart comfort, Accor's legendary brands create the perfect stage for your success. Whether hosting at Sofitel or brainstorming at Ibis, every booking brings you closer to a world of rewards. With All Meeting Planner, every €2 spent on events earns you 1 reward point and 1 status point. Imagine hosting a €30,000 event, instantly achieve gold status, and earn €300 in points credits. Redeem your points to elevate your meetings, get discount upgrades, or just treat yourself with our partners and exclusive limitless experiences. At Accor, your events are more than meetings. They're experiences that leave a lasting impression. Join All Meeting Planner. Elevate your events, inspire your guests, live the extraordinary.